Welcome to Cars with Dan, and welcome to the Toyota Altezza windscreen wipers, which is a JDM version of the Lexus IS200. It is a straight 6 station wagon, automatic gearbox. It's pretty much the Japanese competitor to the BMW 3 Series. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to do a sort of basic comparison between this and my car. Now, I'll admit I have driven this car quite a lot over the last few years. It's been part of our household for about 3.5 years now. In that time, it has basically been a Toyota. It hasn't gone wrong, we've just maintained it and driven it. I will be completely honest though, as much as I love rear drive station wagons with, decent sized engines, I'm not a huge fan of this car, but it is great fun to drive at the same time. When I was looking around at cars a couple of months ago with my minuscule budget that I had, the Altezza was I don't really want to say an option. It was a car that popped up on my search constantly as it's rear-wheel drive, straight 6 engined. It mostly fitted the bill of what I was after, but having had driven one a lot, I kind of knew that I didn't want one. The Altezza versus the BMW. Things I like about this car. Let's start with that because there are quite a few of them. It is a rear-wheel drive station wagon, and there are so few of them these days, so it is nice that there are, still some around, and lots of these have been absolutely thrashed these days. This one hasn't, thankfully. I like the interior. It's not as pleasant to be in as the BMW, but it is much more modern. I like the way that the front of this thing looks compared to, I guess, the E46. This is a much more modern shape somehow. It has the HIDs, and I'm not sure, it just has held its, how do I use lower gears? It has held its own much better than the BMW has. So yeah, I think this does look better, and especially with the black wheels that this one's on against the white, with the tinted windows, and it still looks modern even, what are we now, 14 years later? I like the reliability of this as well. In the 6 months or so I've had my car, I've probably spent almost $2,000 maintaining it. In the 3 years we've had this car, I've done oil changes, air filter changes, spark plugs, and that's about it. Man, I wish you guys could see the scooter that I'm following. He's terrifying. We've hardly done anything to this car over the last few years. It has just been brilliant. I do like the way that this thing feels as well, like belting through tiny little streets here. Man, I wish I had some trouble. Belting through tiny little streets here. The suspension is much more stiff, and it doesn't roll around as much as the BMW. The seats are far more supportive. And once you get up in the rev range, it has a reasonable amount of go for a small engine Japanese car. So yeah, this is a good car. It hasn't had a problem, and I completely understand why people buy them when they don't want to buy European cars. It is a much safer bet, and things just don't go as wrong. Things I don't like about this car, and this is there's a few little things here that were very important to me when I was looking for my own car. Number one is the steering. Rear-wheel drive, there's no twitching or anything like that as you get in a front-wheel drive, which is sweet, and you can get around corners nice and easily, and you plan it and it's all good. But it doesn't talk to you. And I know that to some people that's kind of a completely irrelevant thing, and I know that you don't really notice it until you get into something that does. I could live with this, it's not a problem, but I like that the BMW is a bit OTT and tells you every single little detail what's going on, ever. There's 3 things I don't like about this. The steering's one, the brakes are another. They work really well. I cannot fault them at all. But again, it lacks the kind of crispness or something that the BMW has. It lacks the sharpness or the feeling of something. Like the pedal's lighter, you press it, it slows down incredibly quickly. Like Yeah, there is nothing wrong with them. They just don't have the same feedback that the BMW does. And the noise is my other big one with this. I'll shut up and we'll see whether or not the microphone picks it up. Yeah, as you hopefully heard, the engine just kind of makes a grrr noise, and it does it constantly, and especially at 100 k's on the motorway, it's just grrr the whole way along, and I don't think it's a hugely pleasant noise. I was going to compare the power to the Beamer, but I don't really think that that's a fair comparison. You know, I've got a 2.5 litre, this is a 2 litre, and they are completely different engines to use. The BMW has lots of torque, low down, and you just kind of bumble around and it's amazing. This you really have to rev, but once you do, like once you get up to the VVTi area and stuff, it does pay off. So yeah, it's kind of been a very last minute thing, as we've actually sold this car and it is going away in about 2 hours. I'm kind of sad it's going. I have driven it a lot, especially when I had my old 4-wheel drive, which spent a lot of time off the road. So yeah, BMW versus Altezza. I have no regrets choosing the BMW. If you're weighing up between the Altezza and the and a 3 Series, go and test drive them both. I think that the BMW is a better all-around car for someone who is willing to maintain it and spend the money. The Altezza is a much better car for people who just want to hop in, drive to the shops, you know, do a road trip, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it is a very tricky one. You know, both of them are nice cars, both of them are nice places to be. The BMW has a much more quality feel to it, but you know, it does cost a lot more to maintain. The Altezza is, you know, it's a Japanese car, it is reliable. The Altezza is much more thirsty than the BMW, despite being a smaller engine, which is interesting. But again, it doesn't need maintaining as much, it doesn't go wrong, it just kind of drives and is, you know, it's a very friendly car to live with. The BMW is a driver's car through and through. The flip side is, of course, that it costs more to maintain. Things go wrong more often, and you know, they're just generally more finicky. But I love it, and that was why I chose the BMW over the Altezza. So yeah, give this a thumb up if you enjoyed it. It's kind of been a really last minute video, but I've been meaning to make something comparing the two of them for a little while now. And today was basically my last chance to do so. Please remember to subscribe. I've got plenty of videos planned over the next couple of months, and it'll be interesting to see what we replace this car with, and hopefully I can bring you something from that. Cheers!